You're easily replaceable, Devin said, leaning back in his chair with that infuriating half-smile. The fluorescent lights of the small conference room highlighted the sheen of his gelled hair. Quality specialists like you are waiting in line outside. I could snap my fingers and have 3 candidates by tomorrow morning. The words stabbed through me like broken glass. 7 years at Midwest Manufacturing. 7 years of solving problems no one else could see. 7 years of watching products ship safely because of my eyes, my mind, my care. Your performance metrics are adequate, he continued, sliding a paper across the table. Hence the standard 1% adjustment in compensation. 1%. After I'd personally identified the micro flaw in the R7 model that would have caused catastrophic failures in hospitals nationwide. After my inspection, protocol improvements had saved the company millions in potential recalls just last quarter. Something to say, Willa? Devin asked, noticing my white knuckles gripping the edge of the table. I reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope I'd prepared just in case. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. My grandmother's motto. Find someone else then, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I placed my resignation letter before him. As per company policy, I'm giving 2 weeks' notice. Devin barely glanced at it. 2 weeks won't be necessary. We can process your departure today. There's an attachment, I said, nodding toward the second paper beneath my resignation. A transition guide. He didn't even look. We'll manage. Clear your desk by 5. 3 hours later, I walked out the main entrance. A small box of belongings in my arms. Security watched as I loaded them into my car, as if I might suddenly decide to steal industrial secrets after 7 loyal years. The attachment remained unread on Devin's desk. By the time anyone would think to look at it, I'd be long gone. What they didn't know was what I'd set in motion. What they couldn't possibly understand was exactly how irreplaceable I truly was. And in exactly 13 days, they were going to learn the hard way. If you're enjoying this story so far, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Trust me. You'll want to hear how this plays out. Leave a comment with what you think happens next. I bet you won't see the real ending coming. My name is Willa Bryce, and until 3 hours ago, I was the Senior Quality Control Specialist at Midwest Manufacturing. Not the most glamorous title, but it was mine. I earned it. Growing up as the only child of a watchmaker in a small town had its advantages. Dad taught me to see the world differently, to notice the tiniest details others missed. While other kids played video games, I learned to disassemble and reassemble pocket watches blindfolded. When something broke in our house, I was the one who fixed it, analyzing the failure points and improving the design when I put it back together. People called me peculiar. Teachers said I was too precise and needed to loosen up. But precision was my comfort zone, my superpower. When everyone else saw a functioning machine, I saw the loose screw that would cause it to fail in exactly 17 days. I never planned to work at Midwest Manufacturing. With my engineering degree fresh in hand, I had interviews lined up with prestigious firms in Chicago and New York. Then Mom got sick. Cancer. The kind that didn't leave much time for goodbyes. So I stayed, taking the only technical job available within driving distance of the hospital. Assembly line worker. Entry level. Temporary, I told myself. On my 3rd day, I noticed something wrong with the medical pump components coming down the line. A microscopic misalignment in the injection mold that would cause the pumps to deliver incorrect medication dosages over time. Not immediately, which made it more dangerous. The failure would occur after months of normal operation, when everyone trusted the equipment implicitly. I reported it to my supervisor, Tara. She ignored me. New girl making waves. I tried the floor manager, who told me to stay in my lane. Finally, I wrote a detailed analysis and slipped it under the plant manager's door. The next day, production halted. Emergency meetings filled the calendar. Teams of engineers huddled around testing equipment, verifying what I'd found. A week later, I was moved to quality control. A month after that, I became a specialist. Within a year, I had developed a multi-phase inspection system that caught problems no standard test could identify. My protocols became the backbone of the company's quality assurance program. For 6 years, things were good. I saved the company from 3 potential recalls. I prevented countless failures before products ever left the building. The old management team valued my work. They didn't always understand it, but they respected it. Then Apex Capital bought the company. New executives, new priorities, new buzzwords like streamlining and overhead reduction, and a new HR director named Devin Powell, with his MBA and his spreadsheets, and his complete inability to understand what actually happened on the production floor. From his first week, Devin had targeted my department. Quality costs, he'd announced in his first company-wide meeting. We need to balance thoroughness with efficiency. Translation: cut corners wherever possible. I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at the red brick building that had been my second home for 7 years. My phone buzzed with a text from Tara, now a production supervisor. "They're crazy to let you go. Need anything?" I didn't answer. What could I say? That I felt hollow? That despite knowing this day might come, I wasn't prepared for how much it would hurt? I started the engine and drove. No destination in mind. The spring afternoon was deceptively cheerful. All budding trees and birdsong. I ended up at Lakeside Park, where I sometimes ate lunch on good weather days. Sitting on a bench overlooking the water, I finally let myself feel everything. The anger, the betrayal, the strange relief. 7 years of my life, dismissed in 3 minutes. My expertise, my dedication, my literal blood, that time I sliced my hand fixing a jammed conveyor, all easily replaceable. My phone rang, unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, same number, then again. Finally, I answered, "Willa?" "It's Chen from engineering." His voice was tight, stressed. "There's something wrong with the new shipment tests. The protocols are giving inconsistent results." I almost laughed. "I don't work there anymore, Chen." "What? Since when?" "Since about 2 hours ago." Devin decided I'm easily replaceable. Silence on the line. "But the Northside Hospital order ships tomorrow. We need your sign-off." "Not my problem anymore." "Call Devin." I hung up, a strange lightness filling my chest. Not my problem. For the first time in 7 years, whatever crisis erupted at Midwest Manufacturing would be someone else's responsibility. My phone immediately buzzed with texts. "Chen. Please call me back. This is serious." "Tara, the QC team is panicking. What did you do?" "Lynn from production. Did you change the testing parameters before leaving?" I turned off my phone and watched the lake ripple in the breeze. They would figure it out. Or they wouldn't. Either way, I was free. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and did something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. No reports to review. No procedures to update. No midnight calls about production line emergencies. I slept for 10 hours straight. When I turned my phone back on the next morning, I had 27 missed calls and 43 text messages. Most from Midwest Manufacturing employees. 3 from Devin himself. His voicemail was terse. "Willa, call me immediately regarding the testing protocols. This is urgent." The satisfaction I felt was probably petty. Okay, definitely petty. But after being told I was dispensable, hearing the panic in his voice was vindicating. I didn't call back. Instead, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and began updating my resume. 7 years at one company looked good. The specific accomplishments I could list looked even better. Around noon, my doorbell rang. Tara stood on my porch, looking frazzled. "You need to come back," she said without preamble. "The entire QC department is in chaos." "I don't work there anymore," I reminded her, leaning against the doorframe. Devin made that very clear. The Northside order failed final inspection. Nobody understands why. The readings make no sense. Did anyone read my transition guide? Tara blinked. Of course. The attachment Devin had ignored. I left detailed instructions for whoever replaced me. It was attached to my resignation letter. Devin never mentioned any guide. He's been running around blaming the engineering team, who are blaming the production team, who are blaming the materials suppliers. I shrugged. Sounds like a management problem. "Willa, please, We've worked together for years. At least tell me what's happening with the testing equipment. I hesitated. Tara had always been decent to me, even when we disagreed. Nothing's wrong with the equipment, I said finally. The problem is that nobody else understands the inspection sequences. The system works fine if you follow the exact protocols I developed. Can you write them down or talk me through them? I did write them down. In the transition guide, Tara looked desperate. They're talking about recall contingencies, Willa. This could cost millions. For a moment, I wavered. These were medical devices. Devices that saved lives. Then I remembered Devon's smug face. You're easily replaceable. I offered 2 weeks to train my replacement, I said quietly. That offer was declined. Tara's phone buzzed. What? I asked. The backup testing also failed. They're stopping all shipments effective immediately. As she rushed back to her car, I closed my door and leaned against it, heart racing. The company that had discarded me was now facing exactly what I had prevented for 7 years. A quality crisis. I should have felt bad. Instead, I felt something stirring inside me. Something like power. My phone rang again. Devon. This time, I answered. We need you to come in, he said, his voice clipped. As a consultant. One day, standard contractor rate. I'm afraid I'm busy today, I replied, surprised at my own confidence. Tomorrow then, double the standard rate. I let the silence stretch uncomfortably long. I'll need to check my schedule, I finally said. I'll get back to you. I hung up before he could respond. 7 years of loyalty had earned me a 1% raise and a dismissive exit. 24 hours of absence had earned me a consulting offer at double rates. The realization crystallized something in my mind. A plan began to form, not just for tomorrow, but for the weeks and months ahead. They thought I was replaceable. I was about to prove just how wrong they were. And Devon Powell had no idea what was coming. That night, I dreamed of broken machines and Devon's face twisted in panic. I woke up smiling. By morning, my phone showed 15 more missed calls. The production line had been shut down completely. An unprecedented move that cost the company tens of thousands for every idle hour. The transition guide remained unread on Devon's desk, buried under crisis management paperwork. I spent the day drafting polished versions of my resume and researching companies that might appreciate my particular skills. Around noon, my doorbell rang again. This time, it wasn't Tara. It was Alan Bennett, the company president. May I come in? He asked, standing awkwardly on my porch in his tailored suit, looking distinctly out of place in my modest neighborhood. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Alan had always been fair in our limited interactions. Before Apex Capital's takeover, he'd personally thanked me after I'd prevented the R7 model disaster. Coffee? I offered, leading him to my small kitchen table. Please. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes, and his usually immaculate silver hair slightly disheveled. As I prepared the coffee, he cleared his throat. I only learned about your departure yesterday evening. Interesting, I replied, keeping my tone neutral, since it happened 2 days ago. Devon didn't inform senior management until the production issues became impossible to hide. Alan accepted the mug I offered. Willa, I'll be direct. We need you back. As a consultant, for double the standard rate, I quoted Devon's offer. Alan winced. I'm not here to offer you a consulting position. I'm here to offer you your job back, with a significant adjustment to your compensation and title. He slid a folder across my table. Inside was an employment contract for Director of Quality Assurance, with a salary nearly triple my previous one. You'd report directly to me, Alan continued, complete authority over your department. And, he hesitated, Devon has been instructed to issue a formal apology. I sipped my coffee, letting the silence grow uncomfortable. What exactly is happening at the plant? I finally asked. Alan's professional composure cracked slightly. 3 failed inspections. Production completely halted. The North Side order, worth nearly $7 million, is in jeopardy. Nobody understands your quality verification system well enough to troubleshoot it. Did anyone read my transition guide? Alan blinked. What guide? I almost laughed. The attachment to my resignation letter. It contained detailed instructions for whoever took over my position. I've never seen any guide. Devin said you left without any knowledge transfer. Now I did laugh, a short, bitter sound. Of course he did. Is there a copy you could provide? Alan asked, leaning forward. I have one, I admitted. But I'm curious. What happens if I decline your offer? Alan set down his coffee mug with deliberate care. Conservatively, a recall of 6 months' worth of production, potential lawsuits, significant layoffs at the plant while we rebuild our quality protocols from scratch. The weight of his words hung in the air. Hundreds of people worked at that plant. People like Tara and Chen, who had always treated me with respect. People with families and mortgages and dreams. I need time to consider, I said. Alan nodded and stood. 24 hours. Please. He handed me his card with his personal cell number scrawled on the back. Call me directly with your decision. After he left, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at the employment contract. The salary was impressive. The title, validating. But something felt wrong about the whole situation. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Kelsey from accounting. Just heard what happened. Before you decide anything, you should know Devin's been telling everyone you sabotaged the QC systems before leaving. Thought you should know. I felt a cold fury building inside me. Sabotage? After 7 years of protecting that company from exactly that kind of disaster? I picked up my phone and dialed Alan's number. I'll come in tomorrow, I said when he answered. Not as an employee, as a consultant. 1 day only. Standard rate. Willa. Those are my terms. I'll help resolve the current crisis. After that, we can discuss future arrangements. A pause. Agreed. The next morning, I dressed with unusual care. Charcoal slacks, crisp white blouse. The good blazer I saved for special occasions. I swept my normally practical ponytail into a sleek chignon and applied makeup with precision. If I was walking back into that building, I would do it on my terms, looking nothing like the shell-shocked woman who had carried her personal items out in a box 3 days earlier. The security guard did a double take when I arrived, hastily checking his clipboard before waving me through. In the lobby, Alan was waiting with Tara and Jin from engineering. Thank you for coming, Alan said, extending his hand. The situation has escalated overnight. Where's my transition guide? I asked, ignoring his outstretched hand. Alan glanced at Tara, who shook her head. We've searched Devin's office, she said. It's not there. Convenient, I murmured. Let's see the production floor. The atmosphere in the facility was tense. Workers stood in clusters, talking in low voices. The usual rhythmic hum of machinery was absent, creating an eerie silence in a space designed to be in constant motion. The quality control lab was worse, a scene of barely controlled chaos. Technicians huddled around testing equipment, arguing about calibration settings. Sample products were scattered across every surface. In the center of it all stood Devin, issuing contradictory instructions to increasingly frustrated staff. He froze when he saw me. Willa, he managed, his expression a mixture of relief and wariness. Thank you for... I'm not here for you. I cut him off. I'm here for them. I gestured to the anxious technicians. Everyone except Devin. Gather around, please. The team assembled, their faces showing various degrees of desperation. I recognized most of them, had trained many personally. The quality verification system is working exactly as designed, I began. The problem isn't the equipment, it's the sequence. For the next hour, I walked them through the basic principles of my inspection protocol. Not the complete system, just enough to get the critical Northside order tested and shipped. I answered questions, corrected misunderstandings, and watched as comprehension gradually replaced confusion on their faces. By noon, they had successfully run the first batch of tests. By 2, the Northside order had passed inspection and was being prepared for shipping. Devin hovered at the edges of these sessions, attempting to look involved while contributing nothing. Each time he tried to interject, I deliberately turned my back to him, focusing on the technicians who were actually doing the work. At 3 o'clock, Alan called me to his office. "You've saved us from disaster," he said, genuine gratitude in his voice. "The board has authorized me to make you an offer significantly above what we discussed yesterday." He named a figure that made my eyebrows rise. "With full departmental authority," he added, "and a seat on the executive committee." I leaned back in my chair. "And Devin?" Alan hesitated. "He's valuable in other areas of HR, so he stays, with a formal reprimand in his file, and he'll have no authority over your department." I nodded slowly, as if considering the offer. "May I use your computer for a moment?" Surprised, Alan turned his monitor toward me. I typed quickly, accessing my personal cloud storage. I printed 2 copies of a document, handing one to Alan. "This is my transition guide, the one I attached to my resignation letter." Alan skimmed the detailed 20-page document, his expression growing increasingly troubled. "This would have prevented everything that happened this week." "Yes. And you say Devin had this?" "It was attached to my resignation letter. He chose not to share it." Alan's face hardened. He pressed his intercom. "Send Devin Powell to my office immediately." While we waited, I gathered my belongings. "You're leaving?" Alan asked, surprised. "My consulting day is nearly over." "But we haven't concluded our discussion about your return." I smiled faintly. "I'll be in touch with my decision tomorrow." Devin arrived just as I was preparing to leave. He faltered slightly seeing me there, but quickly recovered, smoothing his tie with manicured fingers. "You wanted to see me, Alan? Explain this." Alan pushed the transition guide across his desk. Devin glanced at it, his expression carefully neutral. "I've never seen this document before. It was attached to my resignation letter," I said quietly. "The one you barely looked at before telling me I could leave immediately." "There was no attachment," Devin insisted, a faint sheen of sweat appearing on his forehead. I reached into my bag and withdrew a 3rd copy of the guide. "This is my personal copy. Note the timestamp on the digital signature, created 3 days ago, before I resigned." Devin's face flushed. "I never received this." "So you're suggesting I'm lying?" I asked, my voice dangerously soft. "I'm saying there's been a misunderstanding." Alan had been watching this exchange with growing displeasure. "A misunderstanding that nearly cost us millions, that risked our relationship with our largest client, that shut down production for 3 days." Devin swallowed hard. "I followed standard separation protocols. By failing to notify senior management of a key employee's departure for over 24 hours, Alan's voice had taken on a steely quality I'd never heard before. By telling the accounting department she sabotaged our systems." Devin paled. I never... "Save it," Alan snapped. "We'll continue this discussion privately." He turned to me. "Willa, please reconsider our offer. The company needs you." I nodded noncommittally and walked out, feeling Devin's eyes burning into my back. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for several minutes, processing what had just happened. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel was muted, complicated by seeing the genuine distress of former colleagues I respected. My phone buzzed with a text from Tara. "Whatever you decide, you showed everyone who's really irreplaceable today." On the drive home, I considered my options. Alan's offer was generous. The vindication of seeing Devin squirm had been satisfying. The easiest path would be to accept the promotion, return triumphant, and lord my new authority over Devin until he eventually left. But something about that scenario felt hollow, incomplete. At a stoplight, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Willa Bryce?" a woman's voice asked when I answered. "Yes." "Who's this?" "My name is Zoe Cantrell. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Precision Medical Devices. Your name came up in a conversation with one of our suppliers yesterday. I understand you might be between opportunities right now." I felt a flicker of interest. "That's correct. I'd like to discuss a potential position with our company. Would you be available for dinner this evening?" The light turned green. I pressed the accelerator, a new possibility taking shape in my mind. "I'm available," I said. "Where and when?" By the time I arrived at Riverside Bistro to meet Zoe, I had done my research. Precision Medical was Midwest Manufacturing's largest competitor. Smaller, but growing rapidly and known for innovation. Their quality standards were legendary in the industry. Zoe was already seated, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s with cropped silver hair and an air of efficient competence. She stood to greet me with a firm handshake. "Thank you for meeting on such short notice," she said as we settled at the table. Industry gossip travels fast, and when I heard Midwest had lost their quality specialist, I was intrigued. "How did you hear about me specifically?" I asked, genuinely curious. Zoe smiled. "3 of our biggest clients use both our products and Midwest's. They've mentioned for years that Midwest's quality verification was exceptional, better than the industry standard. When those same clients called yesterday in a panic because Midwest had halted shipments due to quality concerns, I started asking questions. Our conversation flowed easily. Zoe asked intelligent questions about my processes and listened intently to my answers. By dessert, she had outlined a position that seemed tailor-made for my skills: Director of Quality Systems, reporting directly to her, with a team of specialists under my direction. "The salary is competitive," she said, sliding a folder across the table. I opened it and nearly choked on my coffee. The figure was 20% higher than Alan's already generous offer. "This seems exceptional," I managed. "We value exceptional people," Zoe replied simply, "and we'd like you to bring your quality verification system to us exclusively." The implications sank in slowly. "You want my inspection protocols. We want you. The protocols come with you. We're prepared to patent them in your name, with you as the primary beneficiary of any licensing agreements." My mind raced with possibilities. My inspection system, formally recognized and protected. My name on the patents. "I should tell you," I said carefully, "that Midwest has made me a substantial offer to return." Zoe nodded, unsurprised. "Of course they have. They're desperate. But I have to ask, after they dismissed you as easily replaceable, do you really want to go back? Even with more money and a better title, you'll always be the person they only valued after they lost you." Her words hit me with unexpected force. She was right. Going back would mean living with the knowledge that my worth was only recognized after I was gone. "I need time to consider," I said. "Of course, but don't take too long." Zoe handed me her card. "We'd like you to start next week." Zoe, that night I sat on my porch swing, weighing my options as the sunset painted the sky in dramatic oranges and purples. Return to Midwest, where I had history, where I knew every machine and process intimately. Accept their belated recognition and increased status. Watch Devon squirm under my new authority. Or join Precision. Start fresh, build something new, own my intellectual property properly for the first time. Never again wonder if I was truly valued. My phone buzzed with a text from Alan. "The board has authorized an additional 10% above our offer. Please call me in the morning with your decision." As darkness fell, a plan crystallized in my mind. Not just for tomorrow, but for the months ahead. A plan that would prove once and for all exactly how irreplaceable I truly was. And Devon Powell would never see it coming. I woke at dawn the next morning, my decision made. I called Alan first. "I appreciate the offer," I told him, "but I'm declining." A long pause. "May I ask why?" "I was replaceable 3 days ago. Now I'm suddenly invaluable. That's not a foundation I want to build on." "Willa." Mistakes were made. Yes, they were. Goodbye, Alan. I hung up and immediately called Zoe at Precision. "I'd like to accept your offer," I said when she answered. "With one condition." "I'm listening. I need 30 days before I start." Zoe hesitated. "May I ask why?" "I have a personal project to complete, and I need to document my quality verification system properly." "Understandable. 30 days is acceptable. I'll have HR prepare the paperwork." My next call was to a business attorney who specialized in intellectual property. I explained my situation and scheduled a consultation for that afternoon. By noon, I had cleared my small home office and covered one wall with a large whiteboard. For the first time in 7 years, I began documenting my complete quality verification system. Not the simplified version I had shown the technicians yesterday, but the full, A complex methodology I had developed through years of observation and refinement. Every sequence, every calibration setting, every checkpoint and failsafe. All the knowledge I had kept primarily in my head, sharing only the operational basics with the QC team at Midwest. The attorney, Melinda, arrived promptly at 2. I explained my situation while she took careful notes. So, you developed this quality verification system while employed at Midwest Manufacturing, she clarified. Yes, but it wasn't part of my job description. I was hired as a line worker and later promoted to quality control. Creating a new inspection methodology wasn't in my contracted duties. Melinda considered this. That creates an interesting gray area. Did you ever sign an intellectual property agreement? I shook my head. My original employment contract was basic. When I was promoted, the title and compensation changed, but nothing else. And your system isn't documented in company materials? Only partially. Basic operational guidelines, not the underlying methodology. She made a final note. We have grounds to file for patent protection in your name. There will likely be a challenge from Midwest, but their position is weakened by their failure to properly document and secure your work while you were employed there. For the next week, I worked with Melinda to file preliminary patent applications for my quality verification system. We carved it into distinct processes, each potentially patentable on its own. By Friday, the first filings were complete. Meanwhile, I fielded daily calls from Alan, each more desperate than the last. I let most go to voicemail, but answered one on day 6. The production line is still down, he said without preamble. We've brought in 3 consultants. None can fully replicate your process. That's unfortunate, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Name your price, Willa. Whatever it takes. It's not about the money, Alan. Then what is it about? I considered how to answer. Respect. Recognition. Understanding that some people aren't as replaceable as they might seem. He seized on this. We recognize that now. The board is prepared to offer you a vice presidency. Too late, I said simply, and hung up. On day 9, Tara texted me. Devin's been demoted. Now working in the records department in the basement. I smiled at that, but didn't reply. On day 12, my doorbell rang. A courier delivered an envelope containing formal job offers from 3 of Midwest's competitors, all clearly having heard about my availability. I filed them away without responding. On day 15, I drove to the small cafe across from Midwest Manufacturing during lunch hour. I sat by the window, watching employees file out for their breaks. Their faces showed the strain of the ongoing crisis, the tightness around eyes, the quick, nervous movements. I recognized that look. It was the expression of people worried about their futures, their jobs. Guilt nagged at me. My quarrel wasn't with the line workers or engineers. They weren't responsible for Devin's actions or the company's failure to value my contribution until it was too late. Tara spotted me through the window and came inside, sliding into the seat across from me. You look well, she said, studying my face. Better than the rest of us. How bad is it? I asked. She sighed heavily. Production's partially restarted, but quality rejections are through the roof. We're shipping at maybe 30% capacity. The board is meeting daily. Rumors about layoffs are everywhere. My stomach tightened. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Her tone wasn't accusatory, just tired. You could fix this, Willa. You could save hundreds of jobs. That's not my responsibility anymore. Maybe not. But these people have families, mortgages. They didn't do anything wrong. She left before I could respond, leaving me with an uncomfortable weight in my chest. That evening, I stared at my whiteboard, at the detailed documentation of my life's work. Was I punishing the wrong people? Was my revenge against Devin and the company that undervalued me hurting innocent bystanders? I called Zoe. I have a hypothetical question, I said when she answered. If I were to license my quality verification system to other companies while working for Precision, would that be acceptable? A thoughtful pause. Ordinarily no, but in your case, it might be arranged. Under certain conditions. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about the human cost of what's happening at Midwest. Ah, she understood immediately. You're concerned about the workers. Yes, a limited licensing arrangement might be possible. But Willa, don't give away what you've earned. Whatever you decide, make sure it's on your terms. Her words stayed with me as I formulated the next phase of my plan. On day 17, I called Alan and requested a meeting. Not at Midwest, but at a neutral location, a conference room at the downtown library. He agreed immediately. When we met the following morning, I brought Melinda with me. Alan arrived with Midwest's corporate counsel, a nervous-looking man named Grant. "Thank you for meeting," Alan began, looking haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his normally impeccable suit appeared slept in. "We're prepared to discuss any terms." I held up my hand. "I'm not here to negotiate employment. I've accepted a position with Precision Medical Devices." Alan's face fell. Grant shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "However," I continued, "I'm prepared to offer Midwest Manufacturing a licensing agreement for my quality verification system." I slid copies of my patent applications across the table. Grant picked one up, skimming it with growing alarm. "You've filed for patents?" he asked, his voice strained. "Yes. My attorney can explain the legal basis for my ownership claim." Melinda outlined our position calmly and methodically. As she spoke, Grant's expression shifted from disbelief to resignation. "The licensing terms are non-negotiable," I said when she finished. 20% of the system's demonstrated annual value to Midwest, calculated as the difference between your current rejection rates and the rates achieved under my system. Initial term of 5 years, renewable at my discretion." Alan looked stunned. "That could be millions." "Yes, it could. The board will never agree." I gathered my papers. "Then I wish you luck finding another solution." "Wait," Alan said quickly. "What about the workers? The people who depend on those jobs?" I met his gaze steadily. "That's why I'm offering a license at all, instead of simply walking away. But I won't undervalue my work again. 20% is fair. It's your choice." As we left the meeting, Melinda smiled. "That was impressively done. They'll accept." "How can you be sure?" "Because they have no choice, and they know it." 3 days later, Grant called Melinda. The board had approved my terms. The licensing agreement would be ready for signature within the week. On day 25, I received a text from an unknown number. "This is Kelsey from accounting again. Thought you'd want to know. Devin's been assigned to administer your licensing payments. He's furious but can't refuse the assignment." I laughed out loud at the perfect poetry of it. The man who had deemed me easily replaceable would now spend his days calculating and processing payments that recognized my irreplaceable value. On day 29, I drove to Midwest Manufacturing one last time, not as an employee or consultant, but as a business partner. The security guard smiled uncertainly as he issued me a visitor badge. In the conference room, Alan, Grant, and several board members waited with the final licensing documents. Conspicuously absent was Devin. The signing took less than 20 minutes. As we concluded, I asked casually, "Will Devin be managing the licensing relationship?" Alan looked uncomfortable. "Yes. He's been reassigned to vendor management." "Perfect," I said, smiling. "I look forward to our quarterly reviews." As I walked through the production floor toward the exit, I saw the line workers watching me curiously. Production had resumed at partial capacity, with the first implementation of my licensed system underway. Near the quality control lab, I spotted Tara supervising a testing sequence. She approached me, arms folded. "So, you found a way to help without coming back." It seemed like the best solution for everyone. She studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "The company underestimated you in every possible way, didn't they?" "They did." "Will you be back to oversee the implementation?" "No, the documentation is comprehensive, and I start my new job on Monday." Tara extended her hand. "Good luck, Willa, and thank you for not burning it all down." "You could have." I shook her hand, surprised by the sudden tightness in my throat. "Take care of them," I said, nodding toward the workers on the line. "I will." As I walked to the main exit, a familiar figure emerged from a side corridor. "Devin, carrying a stack of folders, his formerly pristine appearance now rumpled and harried. He froze when he saw me. For a moment, we just looked at each other. I saw the recognition in his eyes, the dawning understanding of exactly how thoroughly he had misjudged me. "Hello, Devin," I said pleasantly. "I understand we'll be working together on the licensing agreement." He swallowed hard. "Yes, that's correct. I look forward to our first quarterly review. I'll need detailed reports on implementation progress, quality metrics, and of course, accurate calculations of the licensing fees." "Of course," he muttered. "You'll find all the instructions in the documentation. I'm sure someone as capable as you won't have any trouble following them." His face flushed at the deliberate echo of his dismissive attitude toward me. "One more thing," I added, unable to resist the final twist of the knife. "Do you remember what you said to me during my last performance review?" He looked away. "I said many things. You said I was easily replaceable. That quality specialists like me were waiting in line outside." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "How's the search for my replacement going, Devin?" He had no answer. "For the next 5 years, minimum, you'll be processing payments to me that will likely exceed your annual salary. Each quarter, you'll document exactly how essential my work is to this company's survival. And every time you sign one of those reports, I want you to remember what you said to me in that conference room." I stepped back, smiling pleasantly. "Have a nice day." As I walked out into the sunshine, a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying lifted from my shoulders. My revenge wasn't about destroying Midwest or even ruining Devin's career. It was about establishing my true value, on my terms. On Monday morning, I started at Precision, bringing my expertise to a company that recognized its worth from the beginning. Within 6 months, I had built a team that implemented enhanced versions of my quality systems, pushing Precision's standards even higher. Meanwhile, Midwest struggled to rebuild. Their products shipped again, but at reduced capacity and higher costs, 20% of which came to me quarterly in checks signed by Devin Powell. By year's end, Precision had captured 15% of Midwest's market share. Analysts pointed to our superior quality controls as the differentiating factor. My patents were approved, cementing my professional reputation and financial security. At the industry's annual conference, I ran into Alan. He looked aged beyond the single year that had passed. "You could have destroyed us," he said quietly during a break between sessions. "That was never my goal." "What was your goal then?" I considered the question carefully. "To be valued appropriately. To never again be considered easily replaceable." He nodded slowly. "Mission accomplished, I'd say." Devin submits his quarterly reports on your licensing agreement with remarkable thoroughness. I think it's the only part of his job he actually fears getting wrong. I smiled at that. The perfect punishment for the man who had dismissed my precision and attention to detail. Being forced to apply those same qualities to calculating my value, quarter after quarter, year after year. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's forcing them to acknowledge your worth, over and over again, while you move forward into something better. As for me, I'm no longer worried about being replaceable. I've built something that speaks for itself, a legacy of quality that bears my name and my patents. My systems protect patients in hospitals across the country. My team at Precision treats me with the respect I've earned. And every 3 months, I receive a reminder of how wrong Devin was, in the form of a check that grows larger each quarter, as the licensing terms capture the true value of what I created. That's the thing about being irreplaceable. Once you truly understand your worth, no one can ever take it away from you again. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about a time when someone underestimated your value and how you proved them wrong. Hit the like button if you've ever wanted to show someone exactly how irreplaceable you really are, and subscribe for more stories about getting the recognition you deserve. Remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't just walking away. It's succeeding so spectacularly that they never forget what they lost.